Hello and welcome back. Sorry if this has kind of been a little all over the place. The truth is, I am just kind of winging it and kind of figuring out stuff as I go. When I thought of this idea as a video series, I was like, oh, it'll take me like an hour to get through a magazine. And now that I've done one, I've realized it's probably more akin to about 3 hours per magazine. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to turn it into a weekly three-part series. So I will have an episode Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to pick a magazine from either Nintendo Power. I'm going to get better at this. Nintendo Power, EGM, or Game Informer. Sometimes I'll switch it up and do something else. It's going to be one of those three. I am so bad at this. Anyway, with that, let's get into it. Also, I have decided that okay, this is important. I have decided that if I'm going to do this and it's going to take about an hour per it's going to take about 3 hours, and I need to actually go through and read everything. So I need to undo some wrongs, and that is why, let's switch over here. I am going to start reading everything in every magazine. So, yes, I will be reading handheld. So, yes, I will be reading everything about the 3DS. So, yes, I will be going back through and reading about Sonic RPG and the Assassin's Creed DS game. So, with that, I do need to pause the video for a quick sec, and then we will get right into it. Okay, it is going. Okay. All right, let's get going. I got all confused there for a second. My dog had to go out, and then I couldn't tell if it was going or not. So, okay. I also learned Control F. Now I can kind of like because I do like showing the full page, but then for reading I do need to zoom in for me. But then it just looks a lot better and way easier for it to be read on video. So with that being said, I do need to go back and read the Sonic RPG. So let's get into it. Ready to roll. Sonic and friends make their RPG debut in Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood for the DS. Okay. Back in September of 2006, acclaimed RPG developer BioWare announced that it was working on an untitled DS project, setting off a wave of speculation. Some predicted a follow-up to one of the company's previous efforts, a sequel to Jaded Empire, perhaps, or another installment of Knights of the Old Republic. Others expected something totally new from the studio's maiden voyage into handheld development. But no one guessed that the Edmonton, Alberta-based company was actually teaming with Sega for a God, for a role-playing adventure starring Sonic the Hedgehog. The revelation of this unlikely marriage left the gaming community somewhat bewildered and very much intrigued. But Sega and BioWare have kept a tight lid on the project in the ensuing months. Determined to blow that lid off, we braved the harsh winter conditions of the Great White North for an exclusive first look at the newly christened Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. So, how do you bring a character known for his blazing speed to a genre that typically moves at deliberate pace? Yeah, it's the first question that everybody asks, says the lead designer, Miles Holmes. It's like Sonic. Sonic is this and that. How do you merge that with an RPG? The first thing that we have to appreciate is that as an RPG, it's not going to be the absolute fastest Sonic experience. There are other Sonic games that will meet that expectation for people. Instead, BioWare's primary focus is doing what it knows best, crafting a deep, involved RPG that tells a compelling story. That said, we are going to incorporate those trademark elements of speed wherever they make sense. Insists Holmes. We want to evoke those feelings even if it's not as fast as the other Sonic games. The result is very much BioWare and very much Sonic, offering something wholly new to fans of both. Animal Kingdom. In typical RPG fashion, our heroic hedgehog will split time between exploring the field map, chatting up with locals, and engaging evildoers in combat. He won't have it to do it alone. He won't have to do it. He won't have to go it alone though. Up to 3 other characters can join the Blue Blurs party, and each possesses unique abilities that are crucial to overcoming certain challenges. To reach the other side of the gaping chasm, for instance, you'll need Tails to get airborne. If a boulder is blocking your path, you can call on Amy to smash it with her ludicrously huge mallet. We'll have most of the characters that fans expect from the Sonic universe, as well as some additional characters that you might not expect, says project director Mark Dara. Of the 11 team members, 11, wow. Of the 11 team members you can recruit over the course of the game, Dara was willing to reveal 7: Sonic, Tails, Amy, Knuckles, Rouge, I assume that's Rouge, Shadow, and the Cat. Regarding the latter, Dara quickly adds, "Don't worry, we're looking at raising Big's IQ by a few dozen points. You'll lead your party around the map via the touchscreen. Uh, simply, simply sliding the stylus in whichever direction you wish to move, and tapping certain objects to initiate context-sensitive interactions. Classic series elements like loop-de-loops and dash pads add a bit of spice and somewhat of that speed to the exploration, and you'll be hard-pressed not to stop and gawk at the beautifully illustrated backgrounds. Unlike most 2D RPGs, in which the environments are constructed from tile-based patterns, each map in Chronicles is one giant piece of art that's been drawn entirely by hand. Wow, that's actually impressive. Uh, it's an approach that requires a lot of hard work from the game's art staff, but the results are a joy to look at. Asked how the team arrived at this particular aesthetic, lead artist Joel Macmillan explains, "Visually, we wanted to reconnect with the original Sonic and try to rejuvenate that classic style. We felt he was represented best in 2D. Navigating these two worlds isn't just sightseeing. However, from time to time, you'll come across obstacles that require your party to split up and work in tandem. Relatively simple example that we encountered early on tasks Sonic and friends with using a large crane to finish a construction on a pipe. Where's Mario when you need him? One team member steps on a platform to activate the crane, another pulls the lever to lower the hook, and the third attaches the missing segment of a pipe. The final member of your team can then rotate the crane and drop the pipe into place, allowing Sonic to dash through and proceed to the next area. In keeping with the series tradition, you'll also collect rings during your travels, but doing so grants a different reward than the usual one-up. To bring out the traditional RPG elements, we felt that you would need to have currency and you would need to have shops, says Dara, so you'll be able to spend your rings on new items and equipment for your party. Sonic will be able to purchase new shoes, for example. One pair might allow him to move faster during combat, while another inflicts fire damage. No word yet on whether Big will have to buy those aforementioned IQ points. Just want to check one thing real quick. Okay, sorry for the second pause in this episode. I was starting to get thirsty and I was starting to get a tickle in my throat, and I didn't have anything to drink, so I needed to pause and get something to drink. I have to admit something while reading this. I'm really getting intrigued and wondering if I might need to include the DS, because I know the DS has some really good games, and like sounds like interesting and intriguing, and it's made by BioWare. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it, and I know I'm not a big handheld guy, but maybe I can figure out a way to legally get it on my computer. So I'll look into it and to see what I come up with. But anyway, into the fray. As you might expect, dispatching foes is a bit more methodical than in previous Sonic games. You'll see enemies approaching on the field map. Let's hear it for the gradual extinction of random encounters, and And should they come in contact with you, the game cuts to a 3D battle screen. The developers decided to go polygonal to the polygonal route with combat because it allows for a more dynamic depiction of the fisticuffs. Skirmishes are menu driven and turn based, though the round doesn't play out until after you've selected commands for the entire party. That way, remarks Dara, you've got that nice tactical element, but all of the action is concentrated at the end to give combat a feeling of speed. Okay, I can see that, yeah. You just kind of load up and then just boom all at once. I could see the idea of it. I don't know how it kind of works out in action. And depending on their attributes, some characters can prefer multiple actions per round, leading to some impressively frenetic battle sequences. In discussing the team's overarching philosophy behind the battle system, Holmes tells us the ultimate thing I wanted to see out of combat was that it be quick paced. Even if it was strategic in terms of turn based input, it should be presented very quickly. So after you plot your moves, it all happens very fast. You see Sonic moving the way he should be moving. The team played around with that idea, with the idea of a real-time system, but it failed to deliver what they felt was important. Paradoxically, turn-based combat actually lets us make Sonic faster than he would have been able to do with a real-time system. I feel like I fumbled reading that, but basically they're saying it works out that turn-based is faster than doing a real-time system. With a completely real-time system that uses a party, you become limited in terms of what the player can keep track of. If you have Sonic moving super fast and 3 other characters all doing their thing, it overwhelms the player. Vanquishing your opponents isn't a strictly passive affair. However, each member of your party can perform special moves that require you to execute touch screen commands for maximum efficacy. In one example, circles close in on your target, and you have to tap them in order to Elite beats agents. In order Elite beat agents. If you're successful, the attack could cause additional damage or inflict a status effect, such as stunning your foe. Let me just move this down. We wanted to have a real-time elements in there to keep the player engaged, says Holmes. Take Final Fantasy, for example. They have some pretty spectacular animations for certain spells and things, but they tend to disengage the player after a while because it's not interactive. It's just a canned animation. So to have the real-time input, we figured that's a way to do these movies and still keep... Oh, moves. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Movies? Okay. We figured that's a way to do these moves and still keep the player engaged because you have to be paying attention. It was something that was obviously influenced by Mario and Luigi games. It was the idea that worked really well in their combat. Certain party members can also work together to create devastating combination attacks. If you have Sonic and Tails in your party, for instance, they can team up to perform a blue bomber in which Tails grabs the blue burr, takes the skies, and drops his hedgehog ordnance on group enemies. Dara claims 40 or so combinations in the final game, some of which involve 3 or 4, even 4 characters. You must choose wisely when to use them. However, both power moves and combination attacks will deplete your fatigue points. Once a character's FP tally is at 0, he will be limited to normal attacks. Other strategic choices are involved in deciding whom to put in your party. You can switch characters in and out at any time by returning to your headquarters, and each character has different strengths and weaknesses. At the beginning of the game, Sonic is the only one able to perform 2 actions per round, but his attacks don't do as much damage as, say, Knuckles. Tails, on the other hand, is much more of a support character. His power move includes things like Tinker, which weakens or temporarily incapacitates robotic enemies. Of course, a trademark of BioWare RPGs is that you can customize your characters as you see fit. When a member of your party levels up, you get to choose which attributes to improve. Naturally, each character starts off with certain tendencies, but if you want to make Rouge super strong over time or focus on increasing Big's speed, that's your prerogative. You'll also receive points in which to purchase new power moves or upgrade existing ones, which causes them to deal more damage and can even add side effects such as making an opponent dizzy. Yeah, this is all sounding cool. When you attain certain levels, your party's field map abilities will improve as well, giving you access to new areas to reach a treasure chest atop and especially High Cliff, for instance, you'll need Tails level 2 flight ability. That means you can stick with the same party of your favorite characters if you wish, but neglecting the rest of your group carries the risk of missing out certain rewards. A Hero's Tale. Perhaps above all else, BioWare is known for telling great stories, and the studio hopes to continue that tradition with the Dark Brotherhood. That was a big deal for me to have an impactful story that interfaced with the previous stories that Sonic has been through. Says Holmes, it was really cool going through the back history of the property. There's a lot more there than you might have expected. I also noted, I bet there is there. I'm not surprised that there's a lot more Sonic games than people would realize. I'm not surprised by that statement. I also noticed that they left a lot of loose ends that we could tie into. It enabled us to bring a new story, but also reach back a little bit and have something that real fans can connect with what they had seen before. It sort of explains a few things that they might not have had an answer to. And of course, if we're doing a new Sonic game, we want to leave our mark on it as well by adding a new character here and a new location here. But the cool thing is being able to plug those new elements into existing Sonic material. They may be new, but they actually fit into the stuff that's been there all along, Dara adds. The goal for us is to create something that actually builds on the existing franchise as opposed to something that feels like it's just sort of stapled onto the side. Our tale begins with Sonic on a well deserved vacation, having foiled Dr. Eggman's latest scheme. 2 years prior, the heroic hedgehog decided to travel the world he saved on so many occasions and simply enjoyed the sights. His sabbatical comes to an abrupt end, however, when he receives an urgent message from Tails. It seems Knuckles has been kidnapped by a mysterious group called the Marauders, and that 6 of the 7 legendary Chaos Emeralds have also gone missing as well. Sonic quickly returns home, and his latest adventure is off and running. So, who's behind this new threat? At the beginning of the game, it looks like Dr. Eggman is the main villain, states Dara, but as the story progresses, where does the next, as the story progresses, you'll. Because over here on the right is clearly, I'll get into that later. Wow, that's odd. Okay. You'll realize that it's somebody else, a new darker villain. That's not to say Sonic's arch nemesis doesn't have a role to play. According to Holmes, Eggman has been relegated to comic relief for a while, but we really wanted to build him back up as a credible adversary. And there's a twist centered around Eggman that goes back to the franchise's early days that Sonic fans will not expect. Chronicles is divided into 2 acts. The first takes place in familiar Sonic locales such as Green Hill Zone, Mystic Ruins, and Emerald Town. Longtime followers of the series will get a kick out of seeing its most memorable stages reimagined in RPG form, and the nostalgia needle really goes off the dial when you hear the music. The soundtrack features a number of remixed themes from previous games and serves as a reminder of just how infectious the music was in those early Genesis installments. Okay. The developers wouldn't show us anything from Act 2, but they divulged that Okay. But they divulge that it takes place in a parallel universe and that the overall tone of the game gets much darker in the second half. Though key moments will play out via fully animated cutscenes, the primary vehicle moving the story forward is interactive dialogue. As in previous BioWare games, you can choose how your hero responds during conversations. The default response will just be the purest Sonic response possible, Dara says. He just wants to cut to the chase and get it going. Alternatively, you can ask questions to dig into more detail, or in some cases, give a response with a bit extra attitude. The attitude responses can actually lead to some pretty humorous exchanges, and the writing as a whole seems to live up to BioWare's usual standards. We really want to flesh out these iconic characters and help fans get to know them better, says Dara. In case you feel like taking a break from the main quest, now and then, certain characters will ask you to complete optional side missions. Doing so will earn you extra experience points and on occasion special items or equipment. These diversions gives players a little more freedom to do what they want and help open up the game's world a bit more, asserts Dara. Judging from what we've seen thus far, Chronicles' melding of old school platforming mascot with prominent RPG developer could prove the best experimental mergers since chocolate and peanut butter. It's obvious that the team has a lot of passion. Okay. Where I lost it. Peanut butter. It's obvious that the team has a lot of passion for the project, and they clearly determined to do right by the old hedgehog. As Holmes puts it, he's just great. He's just a great character, and he's been part of the game culture for so long now. You'd be crazy not to have a fondness for the series. We'll all get a chance to feel the love when Sonic Chronicles rolls into stores this fall. And I think that's it for that. Okay. But I still have this little interview, or it seems like a pretty big interview, to dive into. So, we chat with BioWare's co-founders, Dr. Ray Mazuka. I've just always heard him as Dr. Ray. And Dr. Greg Zeschuk. Yeah, it's Dr. Ray and Dr. Greg. Now I know why it's Dr. Ray and Dr. Greg. Okay. So they met with the two doctors. Let's get into it. Nintendo Power. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us today. Dr. Ray, this is a great honor. Seriously, we're thrilled to be in Nintendo Power. Nintendo Power. Wow, thanks. We're delighted to finally be able to cover one of your games. I guess the most obvious question to start with is why did BioWare decide to get into handheld development? Dr. Ray. We love handheld games, and we're excited about bringing some of the things that BioWare is known for, like story and character development, onto the handheld space. It's as simple as that, and we're big fans of Sonic. That's a big part of this as well, frankly. I've got my Sega Genesis signed by Yuji Naka plugged into my HD TV. That's crazy. It's pretty big and pixelated, but it still looks great and it plays great. We love handhelds, we love Sonic, and we'd love to bring some of the things that BioWare is known for with story and character. Sorry, I have a bit of what do you call it? Heartburn right now, so I don't know why, but whatever. We'd love to bring some of our things that BioWare is known for with story and character and RPGs onto that space. How did the project come about? Did Sega approach BioWare or vice versa? No, this is Greg, Dr. Greg. That's funny. We've been trying to remember how it happened. We know Sega president Simon Jeffrey very well. He worked with us on Knights of the Old Republic when he was at LucasArts. And then Dr. Ray, I think we were just talking to him about various possibilities for him working together. We're friends who have worked together in the past. We talked periodically, and I think we just talking about our passion for Sonic at one point. We thought it'd be cool to do something together, and we saw we could make something happen, and it just kind of developed from there. It was just kind of mutual. And then Dr. Greg, yeah, I don't think there was One specific event, we chat with him from time to time, and we were mutually interested in making a really high-end handheld project. That was the other thing that was actually very important to us. We play a ton of handheld games, and generally uh, most of us, the high quality handheld stuff is coming out of Japan. There isn't a lot of North American AAA handheld development going on. There are a lot of solid games, but nothing that really stands out. So we thought it was a great chance to team up and do that. Nintendo Power. Why did you choose the DS for the project? Dr. Ray. In some ways, we think that the DS is just more tuned to the style of game we make at BioWare. It seems to fit the RPG space better. With the two screens, you can actually show RPG stats and stuff that's appropriate for the genre. It enables for different types of gameplay. The fact that you can touch the screen, the fact that it all kinds of other cool capabilities. It seems like a better system, and in a way, for things that we try to support a range of platforms, different systems, and for a good different type of games, we might support other systems in the future. But for this game, we think the DS is perfect. It's perfectly attuned for a Sonic RPG. Oh, okay. Uh, Nintendo Power. Do you have to approach handheld development differently than with a console game? With a console game, Dr. Greg, it's very refreshing for us. We've been doing this for almost 15 years now. If anything, building on the DS is not unlike what we did years ago on the PC. You have a smaller team, a tight knit group, and the progress you can make in a short amount of time is incredible. The biggest thing, and Mark always emphasizes this to us, is when he's looking for folks to help on the project, it's that every single person counts. Every single person is important. Nintendo Power. Obviously, you guys have worked on properties before with Star Wars and Dungeons and Dragons, but is this different working with an existing game license with like Sonic? Dr. Ray, you always start with something really great, not just from a marketing side, but also from a development side, where you have the body of information around the characters and how they interact and the relationships and the world and the universe. You're able to bring all that to bear, and the Sonic franchise is incredibly rich and detailed when you start looking at all the history there. There's a lot of stuff there, and it's a powerful starting point. Dr. Greg. The characters already have relationships with each other, and it's interesting. Dr. Ray. We were delighted when we started looking into the license and saw how rich it was. We were fans of the license to begin with, but we didn't realize there was this big candy store of stuff that we could take from, and Sega's been very supportive of us developing within that universe, trying to bring new things to it and really innovate where we take the property. Dr. Greg. We want to flesh out all those characters, ones you've known just a little bit. You're gonna get to know them a lot better, like Big the cat. We're way up here. Uh, Nintendo Power. That's actually my least favorite character in the Sonic universe. Dr. Greg, what? This interview is over. This interview's over. Ha ha ha. Uh, Nintendo Power. I'm sorry, Dr. Ray. We're gonna show you a whole different side of Big the Cat. He laughs. Dr. Greg, he's very sensitive. He has a big heart, but you don't have to put him in your party if you don't like him. Dr. Ray. It's all about choice, right? That's a big part of BioWare games. It's allowing the player to customize their experience. I think it's great that we actually have players who prefer different styles of gameplay and different relationships and different teams. We're going to facilitate that. Dr. Greg, yeah, you could purposely leave Big the Cat languishing at the base and have him miss out on all the fun. He laughs. Nintendo Power. How do you go about balancing what makes the series the what it how do you go about balancing what makes this series what it is while simultaneously trying new things? Mark Dara, the project director. It's really important that you stay true to the essence of Sonic. You have to maintain the feeling of speed and attitude that underlies the character. That being said, you obviously have to make certain gameplay choices to tell a stronger story. Sonic has to stop every once in a while and have a conversation with somebody, which is something he hasn't done before, but at the heart, it still has to feel like Sonic. Dr. Ray. You still have to innovate too. You have to exceed fans' expectations. They're going to look at it and say, yeah, it feels like Sonic, but it's new and different. Dr. Greg. That's the fun thing about the depth of the universe. It gives us all the tools to do that fairly easily. The relationships between characters mean something. They mean something in this game. That's one dimension of the franchise that hasn't really been explored. Our mission is to deliver these great stories at BioWare, but our vision, even beyond that, is to make you feel an emotional bond with the characters, to make players feel something. And I think we can do that with this property. We can do some things that we haven't been done before. That's why it's such an honor to be working on this franchise, to be able to, with reverence, take in something exciting new, with take it in some exciting new directions. uh BioWare is renowned for this is Nintendo Power. BioWare is renowned for RPGs. Do you foresee the company continuing to focus on that genre, or are there any other types of games that you would like to tackle, Dr. Greg? We actually have done action games. In fact, our first game was more of an action game, as was MDK2, but we see RPG as a broad description. More so than that, we look at story-driven games as our foundation. Take something like Mass Effect. It has some of the underpinnings of an RPG, but front of it is a very cinematic experience, and it has pretty action oriented. And it has a pretty action oriented combat system. Jade Empire was much the same way. Each one has unique facets. One of our goals is to try to push that story driven game into interesting spaces. And that's one of the reasons for this game, really. We see it as a way to explain the world in a way that we think the players would enjoy and have never experienced before. It's sort of BioWare's signature, that story driven perspective, and we think we can merge well with just about anything. Uh, 1 second. Nintendo Power. What are your thoughts on Wii? Have you given that much consideration to developing on that platform? Dr. Ray. We haven't announced anything on it yet, but we are very excited about it. We're excited about both Nintendo platforms. We think they're both really innovative and do things differently than the other platforms. There's a tremendous strength to that. If you customize your experience to what each platform brings, the touchscreen, the wireless capabilities, the dual screens on the DS, you can really do some innovative things with those. And the same is very much true for the Wii. So while we haven't announced anything on that front yet, we are excited about the platform. The only thing we wouldn't do is we wouldn't just take one of our games and port it in a way that's not appropriate and customized for the platform. That's not what BioWare is about. We take a property and we think, what would really be great to do with that property? What would really be exciting? What's appropriate for gameplay? How can we take that further and combine it with what BioWare is known for? And then combine that in turn with the platform you're working on. How do you make sure your audience is getting what they need? We think about all those things. Dr. Greg. It would have to be the right game. Obviously, biggest strengths for the Wii is that the way you control characters. There's also a really unique social aspect. Split screen has always been fun on other platforms, but there's nothing like playing together on Wii. Nintendo Power. Thanks again for your time. Any final words for our readers? Dr. Ray? For us, this is a big thing. We're not going into DS development lightly. We're going into it because we're fans. Everyone on the team is. Greg and I are. Dr. Greg. We travel a lot and we're playing it all the time. I actually believe that. Dr. Ray. Yeah, honestly, one of the reasons we're on the DS is because that's the system we take with us when we travel. If we're going to take a handheld system, that's generally the one we carry with us. So it's just only natural. If you're a fan of that system, it's the one you want to develop for, and the one where you're always thinking, how could I put a BioWare RPG on the system? It's just got so much potential. It's an honor for us to be working on DS, and it's a big honor, seriously, for us to be in Nintendo Power. We read it all the time. And then over here, our vision is to make you feel as an emotional bond with the characters, to make the player feel something, and I think it's something we can do with this property, Dr. Ray. Okay, so that is Sonic. Here's an ad for Sonic Warriors or Samurai Warriors. We've already kind of gone through this. We've gone through this. We went through this. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Oh, now I understand what this is. Lost in Translation. If I actually read it, I would understand it. I'm so dumb. Lost in Translation, 12 Japan only DS games that every true Nintendo fan should know about. Okay, let's get into it then. Here at Nintendo Power, we see games from all over the world, and just as there are hundreds of games each year, there are only sold in North America. There are also plenty that are only available overseas. Many of these won't be missed, but occasionally a foreign title comes along that we fall in love with, that we feel many of us would really enjoy too. There are a lot of reasons why these gems haven't shipped here, but mainly it's the difference in cultural taste or the difficulty in licensing the games for sale outside of their home territory. The list of fantastic Japan only DS titles has grown so long that we can't sit idly by any longer. Even if you can't buy these amazing games at your local shop, we're making sure that you at least know they exist. If we're lucky, some of our picks might still make it over to our side of the globe one day. Until then, you'll have the following pages to help keep the dream alive. Note, since these games haven't been released in America, they haven't been rated by the ESRB. However, our opinion, none of them seem to contain especially violent or mature content. Okay, whatever. Who cares? 1 and 2. So they combined 2 together, and it's the Jumpstar series. It sounds like wishful thinking, a 4-player DS fighting game that plays like Super Smash Bros. And stars characters from Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, and dozens of other top manga and anime. But Jump Superstars is definitely real, and it's even spawned a sequel with online play via Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, and both games were published by none other than Nintendo. All of the characters in the game come from the stories that have been published in weekly Shonen Jump and Japan's best-selling manga anthology. In addition to the playable characters, there are numerous help characters that will come into your aid by using special attacks, by boosting your stats, or recharging your health. You activate them by touching Koma you activate them by touching Koma comic book panels straight out of Weekly Shonen Jump that are arranged on the bottom of the screen. So, okay, I see it's down here. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about down here. Okay. Similar to a card battle system, you strategically pick a combination of Koma and arrange them in your deck before a match. They come in different shapes and sizes, so fitting them together on the screen is like putting together a puzzle. The game's main mode is navigated via an overworld map similar to the ones used in games like Super Mario World on the SNES. Each level has numerous objectives to clear, from simply defeating all enemies to breaking every wall in less than 2 minutes to winning the fight with a full special gauge, and many more. The varied challenges and unlockable characters and levels keep the action fresh through the entire game. While we can't say for sure why the Jump games haven't been released in North America, after all, many of these characters are super popular here. It's a good bet that there's just too much licensing red tape since every character is owned by a different creator. These games are really good though, so we won't give up on all the hope just yet. You just can't beat having Naruto, Luffy, Ichigo, Goku, Kenshin, and more mix it up in 4-player fantasy battles. For anime and manga fans, these two games are a dream come true. That doesn't sound like a game for me, but it does sound like a game that my friend might like. He's probably played it. He's definitely aware of them. Okay. Uh Daigaso Band Brothers. I assume I'm saying that right. Daigaso, Grand Ensemble Band Brothers was a DS launch title in Japan and planned to release here once planned to release here under the title Jam with the Band. It's very different from other music rhythm games in that you don't just hit buttons in time with a pre-recorded song. Your performance is actually incorporated into the piece as you play. After choosing from a long list of songs in various categories, mostly Japanese pop tunes with a few classical tracks and video game medleys, you pick which of the song's 8 instruments you'll play. You input notes with the control pad buttons and touchscreen. Following the on-screen commands, players can even create an entirely original composition to transfer to a friend's DS. But the biggest draw of Band Brothers and where it gets its name is the fact that up to 8 people can play music together via wireless connection, each using their own DS as a different instrument. The game is a blast, but takes some practice as it can be more challenging than many other music games. If it were released here, it would need an almost entirely new song list, as most of the tracks are Japanese pop tunes now past their prime. The game's unique approach to the genre, however, would still be just as fresh today. Yeah, I don't fully understand how that works. That seems interesting. Doesn't seem like something that would work for me or interest me, but it sounds interesting. Oh boy, some of these games I don't know how to pronounce them. This is Densetsu no Staffy 4. Okay. 99.99 of you have never heard of developer Tose, Tose, and that's just how the team there likes it. They primarily exist to support other studios from behind the scenes, and their work often goes uncredited. You would definitely know them by their games, however, as Tose has created or contributed to make many major titles such as Dragon Quest Monsters, Joker, the Game Boy Color version of Metal Gear Solid, and Nintendo's own Super Princess Peach. The Densetsu no Staffy Legendary Staffy is the rare series that developer takes full credit for, and it is their original creation. The franchise got its start on Game Boy Advance, and the 4th title is the first to appear on DS. Staffy, the main character, fell from his home in the clouds into the sea, and everyone there assumed he was a starfish. He runs, jumps, and swims through maze-like levels that incorporate platforming, hopping, and a lot of underwater movement. Similar to Mario in Galaxy, Staffy spins to knock out feisty fish and crabby crustaceans, and he can gain other abilities such as floating and wall jumping. Staffy 4 also features the cute little guy's sister, Stapy, as a second playable character, and enhances the 2D gameplay with polygonal 3D backgrounds. Comparable in quality to the pretty good Super Princess Peach, the Staffy games are by no means on the same level as New Super Mario Bros. Still, this is a solid, fun series that has a built decent following in Japan. Its cute Kirby graphics and platform hopping style are a perfect fit for Nintendo fans, so hopefully we see Staffy swim onto our side of the ocean someday. So that's Staffy the starfish. Uh, what? How do you it's OUE. There's three vowels in a row. Uinden, Uinden. I guess I'm Uinden series. Uso Takataki Uinden. And then this one, this is the entire title right here. Moro Neketsu Rhythm, Damashi Usu Takataki Uinden 2. That's terrible. You guys, that's terrible. Most players who try to be Elite B agents become instant fans of the music, rhythm, games, catchy tunes, over the top story scenes, and addictive touchscreen gameplay. If you're among the EBA faithful, you'll be thrilled to know that the game is based on a series in Japan that includes two totally different games with all new songs and stories. I'm not saying the names of these again. You've heard me butcher them before. So, for the most part, the Uinden games play exactly like EBA. You tap on screen icons to beat the music to make a 3-man cheer squad for down on their luck characters in a story that plays out on the top screen. But in the Uinden, the Elite B agents are replaced by the type of Japanese cheer squad that leads rallies at the country's sporting events. The scenarios that play out during each level are hilarious and use a cool visual style that's a mixture of still images and simple animation. As in EBA, the games always end with our heroes saving the world, but with a positive spirit and infectious beats. The songs are all Japanese pop hits, some of which we recognize as tracks that were still used as a theme in songs like anime, like Full Metal Alchemist. But both Uinden games, along with Elite B Agents, will go down in DS history as some of the system's best games. Due to the inherent cultural references, we don't expect to ever see the Uinden games released here, but our fingers are crossed for a sequel to EBA. Tingle? I don't know if I like this. I don't like this at all. That's gross. But let's get into it. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Tingle has firmly wedged himself into Nintendo gaming. The eccentric, middle aged fairy wannabe has appeared in some form in every Zelda game since N64's Majora's Masks 7 years ago. But he's never taken a starring role in a major adventure, or has he? The oddly titled, freshly pickled okay. The oddly titled, freshly pickled Tingle Rosie Rupee Land released in Japan 2 years ago and breaking our Japan only theme, also shipped in the UK and features a full English translation. Why then hasn't Tingle's greatest claim to fame been made available stateside? Nintendo once hosted an online poll to gauge US players' potential on interest in the title, and we here at Nintendo Power tested the waters ourselves with a previous article on the game, and apparently the reaction from the masses wasn't strong enough to demand a release. That's too bad because the game is one of the most unique adventures that we've seen in a long time. Tingle's world revolves around rupees, the currency made famous by the Legend of Zelda series. So in the game, you lose rupees instead of health, and your goals involve finding ways to attain certain amount of cash. Tingle's dedication to squeezing every last rupee out of his adventure almost makes Wario look charitable. In more typical adventure game fashion, Tingle's quest takes him through various dangerous locations and towns and introduces him to many different characters. All the while, he's bartering, shopping, and updating a more primitive version of the map from Phantom Hourglass. Rosie Rupee Land isn't a AAA title, but it's a worthy adventure with innovative gameplay and stars an established character from one of Nintendo's top 2 franchises. For those 2 reasons, we're still rooting for the weird little guy to one day get his shot in North America. Okay, that actually does seem interesting. That does seem interesting. Okay, so there's GBA Classics, which has Rhythm Tengoku and Mother 3. We can't wrap our discussion of Never Made It Here games without mentioning two awesome GBA titles. Both are from Nintendo, offers some of the best experience we've ever had on our DS, even if they aren't DS games. Rhythm Tengoku, Rhythm Heaven, is an amazing Wario style music game from the same folks that brought us that series. It consists of 25 minigame plus variations of each. The games last much longer than a few seconds that games get in that fast-paced Wario titles, but they're still short enough for quick pickup and play sessions. Whether you're hitting baseballs into outer space, playing the drums with an alien, or keeping mice hidden from a cat, the controls are generally the simple tap the A button to the correct beat. You'd think that the mini games would have trouble holding your interest in such basic gameplay, but this is one of the most addictive titles we've ever seen. Mother 3 is the dialogue heavy, long awaited sequel to the SNES RPG Earthbound that earned a dedicated following when it released here in 1995. Unfortunately, the dialogue would take ages to translate into English, making the game's chances of one day releasing here even more slim. Nonetheless, we had to include Mother 3 because the series is just so good. It's classic old school RPG goodness mixed with some of the funniest, wittiest writing gaming has ever seen. At least Lucas, the game's main character, is playable in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That game did get ported over. I think it might even be on Nintendo online at this point. Okay. And then we've got the last three. 10 through 12 Club Nintendo exclusives. In Japan, purchasing Nintendo games earns the buyer points that can be redeemed for prizes. As part of the program called Club Nintendo, some of the cooler rewards have been exclusive game soundtracks, a TV remote that just looks like a Wii remote, and best of all, original Nintendo games that can't be bought in any store. To date, there have been 3 Club Nintendo titles, all for DS. Game & Watch Collection, Tingle's Balloon Fight, and Zekuku Senshi Sakuburan! Exclamation Warriors Sakuburan! Game & Watch Collection includes 3 games, Oil Panic, Donkey Kong, and Greenhouse, from Nintendo's classic line of pre-Game Boy handhelds. Each is very simple but offers bite-sized bits of fun that are still, all these years later, surprisingly addictive. Tingle's Balloon Fight is a remix of Nintendo's classic arcade and an NES title, which was simply titled Balloon Fight. Tingle's been added as a laugh, but the gameplay remains the same. Tap the buttons to float through the air and pop your enemies' balloons before they pop yours. This is a nice title to pull out when you've got only a short time to play. I'm not saying that title again. ZSS is the oddest of the bunch. The game, which allows 3 players via download play, is a throwback to the classic Japanese Power Ranger type heroes that sport brightly colored spandex, strike action poses, and yell out their names out of their martial art moves. Yelling, in fact, is what the game is all about, as the DS microphone is used extensively to perform attacks. Excuse me? And other actions. Unfortunately, the game only recognizes the Japanese commands and will require a total overhaul to work with English. So it seems highly unlikely that we will ever see it released here. These extremely rare games are the ultimate collectibles for Japanese DS owners, but they're not the only lucky ones. Nintendo of America has also given out bonus gifts for registering games and taking part in surveys at Nintendo.com. Past freebies have included an exclusive GameCube collection of classic Zelda games and various collectible stylish designs. Don't miss out. Okay, and then it's just kind of talking about Japanese hardware, the Famicom, the Broadway, the Game Boy Light, Nintendo 64 DD. And now we're getting into this that I already read. Oh, yeah. Now I got to get into the Assassin's Creed Path of the Assassin. Get a new take on Ubisoft medieval hitman with Assassin's Creed on DS. Bringing a console game to a handheld can be tricky, especially when we're talking about a vast open world game developed like a game like Assassin's Creed. Developer Gameloft approached the problem in an intriguing way. Instead of stripping the game down and cramming it on a DS card, they made an entirely new adventure that has the essence of the original yet fits perfectly on the handheld. To make the game appeal to even those who have played the PS3 or Xbox 360 version, Gameloft made Assassin's Creed DS for a prequel. The game will help players understand how Altair became what he is in the console game, explains Gameloft brand manager Maureen Guillermo. The Templars are holding an artifact that has the power to end the Crusades. They are waiting for one of the sides of the Crusades or the Saracens to offer the right price to obtain it. Altair is tasked with retrieving that particular item. The item in question is referred to only as the chalice. And Altair must run and jump and climb and fight his way through 4 cities to get it. Like in the console game, all the gameplay is in 3D, but the cities themselves are smaller in scale and are decidedly more conducive to platforming with numerous balance beams and deadly traps and seemingly bottomless gaps that sometimes require Altair's new grappling hook to cross. The cities are more linear too, with collectible orbs used to upgrade your health and weapons, and on-screen arrows to point you in the right direction. Based on the levels we played, the gameplay is slightly reminiscent of the 2D Prince of Persia games, only much less difficult and much better looking. There's a reason for the latter. The team spent a lot of time making sure that the way the main character, Altair, as well as his allies and enemies move on screen, are up to the groundbreaking standards of the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, says Guillermo. Bringing a fluid and dynamic 3D movement for a character on DS was not an easy task indeed. We had a top-notch animation team that really put their heart into capturing the grace and deadliness of the medieval assassin. The deadliness comes across as more action-oriented this time around, whereas the original game was focused on compelling investigations. So they're trying to say that this game is more action oriented. Fascinating. Okay. Let's see. Whereas the original game was focused on completing investigations, eavesdropping, pickpocketing, interrogating, etc., remaining inconspicuous and stealthily eliminating your target. The DS version is a more straightforward action game with 2 buttons, X and Y, dedicated to heavy and light sword strikes. Respectively, there is some investigating, see the Elite B assassin sidebar, and stealth. And of course, you draw less attention to yourself by holding the R button. And when you've reached your assassination target or when you're behind an unaware enemy, you can use the context-sensitive A button to silently and swiftly dispatch your victim with Altair's hidden blade. All right, I like that. Boy, the game looks interesting. As different as the game may seem in terms of how it plays, however, it still retains the feel of the console version of Assassin's Creed, which is an impressive feat for a handheld game, says Guillermo. Assassin's Creed DS pushes to the limits of the DS hardware. I hope it doesn't. Judging by what we've played so far, we can believe it. You can find out for yourself in February. I am intrigued by that game. There are now 3 games I am intrigued by, and it is making me think maybe I might have to think about getting an emulator on this PC. Okay. Now we are getting into this, which is a power profile, which is where I was supposed to start with to begin with. And I'm guessing I'm already an hour. Okay, so I am an hour into this episode. I am not stopping. I am just going to finish this. And in the future, let me switch it to this right now. And in the future, I button this up. This shirt just kind of comes buttoned, but whatever. In the future, my plan is I will just commit to 3 episodes, and I will just, it seems like each magazine is going to be about 100 pages, so it'll just be 33 pages, 33 pages, and 33 pages. Either way, I will plan a third, and a third, and I won't stop until I finish that first third, second third, first, third. But at this point, I am just going to go through and finish this episode. So now I am where I should have been at basically the start of the last episode. But with that, let's get into it. So this is a power profile on Takashi Iizuki. For more than 15 years, Sonic the Hedgehog has endured. Oh, wait. No, here we go. Sonic the Hedgehog has endured as one of the most popular and beloved series in all of gaming. One of the key creative talents behind the Blue Bird, dating back to his Sega Genesis days, is Takashi Iizuki. Also known for his role as the designer on Nights and Dreams, Iizuki is now the head of the Sonic team and the man in charge of all things Hedgehog. So let's get into it. Nintendo Power. Can you tell us how you got into the video game business, Takashi? When I was in college, or I should say, Iizuka. I'm guessing it's Iizuka. That doesn't sound right, but it's gotta be. I don't know. Takashi Iizuki. Azuka. Yeah, it's got to be Azuka. When I was in college, I had no idea that a position called game designer existed, and at the time I graduated, Sega was an entertainment company that was involved in toys, games, and of course the arcades. I was interested in Sega as a place where I could use my creative ability, so I applied for a job there, and I was hired straight out of college. Nintendo Power. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Zuka. I love to draw and write stories, so I always wanted to be a manga artist. Nintendo Power. How has the video game industry changed during the time that you've been involved with it? Uh, Takashi. When I joined Sega over a decade ago, video games were very simply okay. When I joined Sega over a decade ago, video games were very simple and I always enjoyed them for pure fun. Back then, games were totally interactive toys. Today, the video game industry seems to be merging into other entertainment sectors like movies, and games are now combining fantastic graphics, complex gameplay, and great storylines. When I was first introduced to game design, we were taught to think about gameplay using just simple shapes like circles and squares. The goal was to create something that was fun without considering the graphics, sound, or any other elements that we take for granted in games today. I think that's the biggest change since I've been in the industry, and it's changed that way that I think about the game design with these other elements in mind. Nintendo Power. What aspect of creating a video game do you enjoy most? As a game developer, I enjoy putting the ideas I have in my head onto paper. From there, through the talents of artists and programmers, I can see my ideas take shape and form. It's fantastic to watch the whole process of your idea taking form and evolving right in front of your eyes. Nintendo Power. When you started at Sega, the company was still a hardware manufacturer. How have things changed for you as a developer since those days? As a developer for one platform, I never really thought too much about the target audience for our games. Back then, Sega's platform, and especially Sonic, really had its own core audience that we catered to. But now we have the freedom to choose which platforms we think best fit the games we create. Nintendo Power. You've been with Sonic since the Genesis days. What are your fondest memories of working on one of gaming's most celebrated franchises? I spent my first years working and learning from some of the greatest people who were creating Sonic for Genesis, but my fondest memories have to be when I worked on Sonic Adventure. At that time, Sega was about to release a brand new console, the Dreamcast, and that was the time it was decided to bring Sonic into the 3D world. It was a very difficult challenge to take the 2D side scrolling action of Sonic into 3D space, but looking back, those times were the most memorable. Nintendo Power. For a long time, you worked alongside Sonic co creator Yuji Naki. What did you learn from him? Learn about the Sonic franchise and about game development in general. Entering Sega, I worked alongside Yuji Naki for 10 years and I learned many invaluable skills that have made me the designer I am today. One of the most important things I will always remember will be how he taught the designers to never act on your first impulse when it comes to general game designs. We learned to always flesh out an idea, thinking about it more dynamically before we took our next steps. For game designs, I think this is critical as it allows you to see the basic design from all angles and get input before any real work is done. What are your thoughts, or Nintendo Power? What are your thoughts on a Sonic appearing in the upcoming Super Smash Bros. Brawl? Uh, I am happy to see Sonic appearing in such a big series like Super Smash Bros. Brawl. It's great to see Sonic amongst the most recognizable game icons like Mario. I think we've been successful in creating games that both Nintendo and Sega fans can play together. Oh, this is lengthy. But one more page. Ooh, Knights. We get to talk about Knights. Wow, there's a few questions about Knights. Here we go. What was the inspiration for the original Knights? Why did Sonic Team decide to create an all-new property for the Sega Saturn rather than a new Sonic the Hedgehog? When Sega was thinking about the new console, Saturn, Sonic Team was interested in creating a game based on a flying character. Working closely with Yuji Naki, we were inspired to come up with a concept of not just a flying character, but a character that could walk on land as well. Once we had the basic concept, it evolved into bringing the character alive in the surreal world of dreams, and that's how Knights was born. Nintendo Power. Why do you think Knights struck such a chord with some gamers that they continue to clamor for a sequel more than a decade later? This really was a game that was created from the ground up. It does not conform to any general game design specs that we were accustomed to, like taking damage, hitting enemies, or collecting rings. Knights is a very unique game that even in its absence of 10 years, there is no other game quite like it. So I think that is why Knights has continued to have the following it has for a sequel. Nintendo Power. It's not very often that a series comes back after a more than 10-year hiatus. Did you have any difficulties convincing Sega executives to let you make the game? The Sega executives remember Knights because it was quite successful in Japan, but because Knights was released near at the end of the Saturn era, it took some convincing to support our efforts in getting the sequel greenlit. As it turns out, with one of everyone's gracious support and help, Knight's journey of dreams has become reality, and I always dreamt of, and hopefully it will generate international appeal for a character that's been waiting 10 years to return. Okay. Nintendo Power. Now that Knight is finally back, would you like to keep the series going? I would love nothing better than to create an ongoing series with Knights. Much like Sega has done with Sonic, this is a dream of mine, like it was having a chance to create Journey of Dreams. Nintendo Power. Any chance we see Christmas Knights Journey of Dreams, please? I've been asked this question a lot, and yes, I would like to say yes, but realizing that Christmas Nights was created as a promotion for Sega Saturn, it was difficult for us to accomplish this time. But Knight's Journey of Dreams has a very special feature called My Dream, where there are seasonal events that change the environment. So if you really look closely, there is some Christmas in the game after all. I hope all the fans will visit My Dream and see for themselves. Nintendo Power. When you're stumped by a particular problem while creating a game, what's your process for working through it? This really depends on what the difficult challenge is at hand. For those difficulties that arise internally in our team, we usually focus to identify the most important aspect of what we're trying to solve. I find that in this way, it allows us to strip away the layers that distract us from the solution to what's really at hand. What other games or game creators do you admire or respect, and why? I would have to put Yuji Naka and Shigeru Miyamoto at the top of my list of creators that I truly admire. Both are pioneers in the game industry and have introduced us to two of the most iconic game characters and games that have worldwide appeal. Nintendo Power. Whose works in other forms of media, such as film or literature, do you admire or really enjoy? I really enjoy all the Pixar movies. They are not only visually stunning, it's each appeal that it's the appeal that each title generates from kids to grown-ups alike that I truly admire. That inspires me to want to create games that have this kind of appeal. Nintendo Power. What are some of your favorite non-gaming hobby or pastimes? I really love scuba diving, but living in Northern California, I haven't been out in the water much. It's too cold. Once I find some free time, I would love to visit some tropical haven to do some scuba diving. Interestingly enough, I've used my personal diving experience in my level designs for Journey of Dreams. It helped me visualize the gracefulness of how a diver moves in the water, then interpret that to the way that Knights flies through the air. Nintendo Power. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why? I love experiencing new and wonderful places that I've never been to, so I would have to say the power to instantly warp anywhere I want to. And that's it? Yeah? Okay. Now we're into reviews. Okay. Oh, an Advance Wars review. Advance Wars Days of Ruin Apocalypse. Wow, is the title. It got an 8.5. If there were anything like the gaming equivalent of comfort food, Advance Wars would be it. Now in its fourth iteration, gamers know what to expect from the franchise. A solid tactical warfare game that doesn't demand too much. But doesn't leave you unsatisfied either. There isn't a lot of gameplay innovation in Days of Ruin, a few new vehicles and some fresh changes on the battlefield to give your brain something to chew on, but most of what you'll see is comfortingly the same as before. While there are a lot of games while there's a lot of gameplay similarity to previous Advance War titles, Days of Ruin story does go in a grim new direction. The events begin immediately after a meteor strike, eliminating most of the population and throwing the world into utter chaos. Skirmishes over food and medicine, as well as interest to renew a civil war between countries that no longer exist, serve as the backbone for the battles. The characters are a little rote. The timid but overachieving boy, the tough and principled mentor, the sworn enemy, and the greater threat lurking in the shadows. Fortunately, the story plays with these pieces better than a lot of other stories have. The temptation to discuss further details of the plot is excruciating, but it wouldn't be possible to do so without exposing some massive spoilers. I'll just say this. So often in video games and previous Advance Wars titles uh, are not excluded from this. The plot feels practically unrelated to the action events, but for the most part, Days of Ruin excels because the missions themselves hold the key moments of the plot together. But while the mission... Oh, well, I accidentally clicked there. Okay. But while the missions are smartly tied to the story, sometimes winning strategy seems exceedingly narrow. Too often, you have to play a level over and over again until you figure out the precise steps to victory. Or you can throw a ton of manpower at your enemy and wear him down through long, slogged out battles. Either way, you feel like you're rewarded only for figuring out the developers wanted you to play, not for creativity. In general, the battle seems more approachable than before. However, Dual Strike introduced a lot of cataclysmic weaponry and CO powers, highly specific abilities that could turn the tide of battle and lay waste to carefully laid plans. Thankfully, Days of Ruin reduces the effectiveness of some of those haymaker attacks, making it less likely that you'll be blindsided by some unstoppable force. It also means that it also means you have less to keep track of. Okay. Don't take this as a sign that the game has been simplified, though, because there's still plenty to strategize over. You also don't have to worry that one side's army has units that are specific to it. Virtually all the armies have the same equipment. Making battles more comprehensive when you play Days of Ruin, it feels like the DS was designed with the franchise in mind. The value of having two screens is maximized. The packed upper screen gives you important data about your troops and the terrain, while the lower screen displays in the action. The frustrating components of Dual Strike's handling of the touch screen are gone in Days of Ruin. You always feel like you're in total control. To top it off, Days of Ruin takes wirelessly connectivity and Nintendo Wi-Fi connection further than any game that has preceded it. With a few minor exceptions, namely the number of people who can play it simultaneously, you can do everything via Wi-Fi that you can do via local wireless. You can go head to head with your friends in virtually any way conceivable, skirmish on custom made maps, trade maps for a friend to play by himself, or post and download top ranked straight stages from Nintendo Wi-Fi Connection Central Depository. Throw in constant voice chat over Wi-Fi so you can harass your opponent when he's taking too long on his turn. It's wireless gaming on the DS at its finest. Chris 8SH. Okay. Now we're getting into, I think that's probably the longest one because it's a full page. This next one, it looks like there's 2 in 1. So we will start with One Piece Unlimited Adventure. This was a Wii game. This was released on the Wii. It got a rating of a 6.5. Exploration is the name of the game in One Piece Unlimited Adventure. The Straw Hat Pirates, including Frankie, a character that at press time has yet to appear in the American version of the anime, find themselves crashing into a mysterious island that is rife with mysteries to unravel and old foes to confront. A great bit of the fan service, especially since those characters are later playable in the game's versus mode. More importantly, it's an island filled with with all manner of flora and fauna to collect. By using a pickaxe, insect net, or I almost said pissing pole, fishing pole, which is needed to unlock and explore even new areas. As promising as the last of the Lost Meat Animal Crossing premise sounds, however, the game as a whole becomes a bit tedious. While backtracking through areas to collect specific items would be a pretty minor annoyance in itself, except when you aren't sure what you're looking for or where to find it, the respawning enemies make it a chore. I ended up running away from many fights later in the game and just hunted for items. Sure, many characters didn't level up as quickly, but I also wasn't bogged down by repetitive fighting that suffered from occasional bout of slowdown. Okay, Endless Ocean. Now this is one that I am kind of intrigued by. Wet Not Wild. Enhance your calm. Endless Ocean 7.5 rating. When you come face to fin, haha, with a six-gill shark or a sperm whale emerging from the inky depths of the abyss, you don't think about gaming goals or endless oceans, lack of them. You think, is it going to attack? Or wow, that's big. There's an element of wonder and discovery about Endless Ocean that's often missing from video games because so many are designed to just get players from point A to point B. But from the moment you jump off the Gabbiano, your dive boat, and enter the peaceful blue world of Manuana Lai Sea, you'll pretty much choose where to go, how long to stay there, and what to do next. There are small goals such as being a good dive guide, and you'll encounter a fun story-based activities such as taking snapshots of specific species for a friend. You can even uncover the basis of ancient local legends by discovering artifacts in a sunken city. Whether you're abroad the ship encouraging whether you're aboard the ship encouraging dolphins to perform backflips or cruising along the coral reef, the Wii Remote's motion based controls feel natural and intuitive. But using the control pad and various buttons often requires thumb straining reaches. Consequently, as you struggle to push the correct button, you'll often move the remote, causing the camera to spin around enough to disorient you. Although that can be frustrating, your ever-present compass will help you regain your bearings quickly. The game's soothing, dreamy melodies present a second insidious obstacle. They will likely lull you to sleep. Fortunately, you can plug in an SD card loaded with more stirring tunes. The game's absence of goals won't please everyone. If you want drama, suspense, and action, you'll have to swim elsewhere. But if you focus on the journey rather than the destination, you may find yourself looking forward to exploring Endless Ocean over and over again, in spite of the game's quirks. I certainly do. Scott P. Yeah, I don't. I that I there's something about that I'm intrigued. I'm just kind of curious what that's like. Ooh, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. This has 3 reviews on it. Mario and Sonic, Bomberland Touch 2, and Professor Layton. Cool. Let's get into it. Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, 7.5 DS title. Like its Wii predecessor, the DS version of Mario Sonic Olympics themed minigame collection is good but not great. Although the action seems to fit a little better with the handheld, speed rubbing the screen with the stylus is much less tiring and more precise than pumping your Wii remote, and the game moves at a snappier pace that makes zipping through its bite-sized nuggets of action more enjoyable. The setup is almost identical to the Wii title with matching modes, the same 16 Mario and Sonic series characters, and most of the same Olympic events. There are a few nice additions such as cycling and 10mm platform diving, the latter of which is my favorite is a new favorite of mine. However, most of the events are just okay and none are truly amazing. With plenty of medals, trophies, emblems, and crowns to earn, there's as much depth as you could hope for from a game of this type. The 15 sets of events in circuit mode and the character specific challenges in mission mode will take a while to complete, and you can always try to better your event record records and raise your standings on the game's worldwide Wi-Fi connection leaderboards. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games is packed with features, provides solid multiplayer fun, is well suited to gaming on the go, and is an overall high quality production. It doesn't quite live up to the historic pairing of the gaming's two biggest icons, but then again, not much good. Chris SL. Bomberland, Bomberland, Bomberman Land Touch 2. This got a 6.0, and it's also a DS game. These are all DS games. If you had a blast with the first Bomberman Land Touch, you're in luck. The sequel is almost the exact same thing. As in its predecessor in Touch 2, you can run around a theme park and play a wide variety of touch-driven mini games to earn access to new parts of the park, thus allowing you to play new mini games and continue the cycle. Some of these mini games are even recycled from the previous title. The new ones are decent fun, but few are spectacular. The rhythm-based Boom Tunes is one of the few truly fun additions. Beyond story mode, battle mode presents the traditional versus competition that Bomberman is known for. The action is solid, and there are plenty of maps and options, including Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, but there's little that the series fans haven't seen before. Yeah, that sounds okay, I guess. Okay. Last but not least, it's got half a page here. Professor Layton and the Curious Village. This is an 8.5 DS, and it was developed by Level 5. I'll be done in just a few minutes, I told one of my colleagues as he was leaving the office for the evening. An hour and a half later, I still hadn't pried myself away from the Professor Layton in the Curious Village. Not because I was stumped, although the game does contain plenty of brain-straining challenge. Because I was absolutely hooked. I kept wanting to solve just one more puzzle. Not everyone will get addicted to Professor Layton's critical thinking puzzles like I did, but those that will find it captivating. Finally, there's a brain game for gamers. One that mixes its puzzles with point and click exploration, memorable characters, and a touching, surprisingly poignant story. Playing as the likable Professor Layton and his apprentice Luke, you'll sharpen your mind with more than 120 brain teasers that include optical illusions, logic problems, math, geometry, wordplay, observation based tasks, spatial reasoning, and a lot more. While some take nothing more than thinking to determine the answer, others implement the DS's touch functionality, such as sliding the puzzle pieces, moving matching sticks, and tracing shapes. It's the framework, however, that makes the game so compelling. The village of Saint Mystere and its kooky inhabitants offer actual reasons for playing through the puzzle after puzzle, even if the reasons are often flimsy. And the mysteries you encounter, murder, kidnapping, and more, subsequently solve make the that just does make sense. Okay. Sub and more, and subsequently make the game especially hard to put down. The unique European style aesthetics provide some great visual punch, and things look even better in the cutscenes. The movie quality animation is reminiscent of Hayao Miyazaki's famed Studio Ghibli. On top of a great adventure mode, Professor Layton offers an additional downloadable content which should keep players plenty busy until the promised sequel. I think the fact that, like, literally 17 years later, Studio Ghibli is still, like, mentioned as like a top tier animation studio says a lot. Like, wow, good for them. They're still kicking it. Okay. Ooh, we got a couple not so great ones. One very not great a review over here. Nano Stray 2. So that's what the game looks like. Also, Nitro Bike looks like that bike, guys. Nano Stray 2. 6.0, published by Nagesco, developed by Shinen. The shooter genre has enjoyed somewhat of a revival as of late, thanks to the plethora of TurboGrafx 16 games that have been re-released on Virtual Console. But compared to flashy new shooters, most legacy titles don't stack up. Nano Stray 2 is an odd mix of old and new. It looks and plays better than any of those old games, and it has the polish of a fresh title, but its brand of twitchy, frenetic action and one hit depths is so 1985. The game puts forth as much effort as it can muster to create a pleasing experience. The adventure stages are packed with crazy enemies and thumb testing obstacles. There are also challenge missions that tend to feel more like puzzles where you have to remember the sequence of appearing enemies rather than simply trying to survive. Like much of the game, these missions can be more maddening than fun. There's two-player multiplayer as well, including a co-op mode through the main missions. Unfortunately, your ships are hampered by having few power-ups when playing co-op. There's no noticeable slowdown, which is beyond there is noticeable slowdown, which is beyond brutal in a fast-paced shooter like Nano Stray. The online leaderboards will be nice for people who can endure enough cheap kills to get truly good. So it seems like a neat idea, just not maybe executed quite as well as they would have liked. Nitro Bike. This was a Wii game. Ubisoft. Ooh. The makers of Excitebike 64 returned to the motocross circuit with a disappointing wreck of a Wii game. Given the developer's pedigree, you'd expect them to avoid such disastrous combinations as touchy motions controls, narrow track designs, and courses littered with stuff to crash into. And why place a greater emphasis on making hairpin pin turns and grabbing big air and pulling off tricks? This was obviously intended as a spiritual successor to Excitebike franchise, but co-founding and often uh, confounding and often frustrating design choices keep it well short of achieving that goal. The lackluster visuals certainly don't help matters, nor do the frame rate stutters that occur when too many bikes appear on screen at once. Top it all off with some generic extreme character designs, and you've got one of the most unappealing racers to ever appear on the console. Steve T. Woof. Sonic Vroom. Sonic Rider Zero Gravity. A Wii game got a 7.0. As with the original Sonic Riders, a large segment of the gaming populace will likely find Zero Gravity immensely frustrating. This unorthodox hoverboard racer throws you into a maelstrom of barely controlled chaos, and it feels very unforgiving when you're first starting out. But if you have the patience to stick with it and learn the intricacies of the mechanics, riding that edge can be pretty exhilarating. The action moves at a breakneck pace. Each track offers a ton of crazy shortcuts, and the new gravity powers let you perform some outlandish stunts, like racing along walls. For the most part, the motion controls are up to the task, though you do have an option to use a GameCube controller if you prefer. Despite an impressive draw distance and some fairly complex course designs, the frame rate holds steady as well. Alongside the main story, campaign, Zero Gravity offers a variety of play modes and copious unlockables to keep you busy. Longtime Sega fans will especially dig some of the bonus courses, and final roster include just about every major character in the Sonic universe, as well as the certain purple jester. It's a bit ridiculous how much new boards cost, though. Cost. Though even after completing both story circuits, I had collected enough rings for only one new ride. My other big complaints My other big complaints are that the sprawling, multi tiered tracks can be a bit confusing at times, and it's annoying how adept CPU racers are at finding shortcuts. In the end, how much you get out of zero gravity depends on how much you put into it. If you have the patience to hone your skills, you'll find a unique, satisfying, and addictive racer waiting for you at the finish line. Yeah, that doesn't sound great. What in the hell is this? There's okay, there's two here, right? I'm guessing they're showing off a couple things here. Yes, okay, yep, there. Because I'm looking at this horse, going like, how, is this my horse and me? Is this part of this River King Mystic Valley? No, but no, it is not. So, River King Mystic Valley is this right here. Got a 7.0. A standby on Nintendo handheld since Game Boy Color, River King has taken DS touch control like fish to water. As you journey to save fishing Kid Senri's sister from a deep sleep by catching the legendary River King, you zigzag across a wooded valley to drop your hook into a series of rivers and streams. You can cast a line with a flick of the stylus, but pressing the A button is easier. The real touch controlled action comes with you trying to bring in a fish that has already taken the bait. By repeatedly drawing a circle on the touchscreen, you simulate the motion of a fishing reel. A meter shows the tension on the line. If it fills to the top, the line will snap. So you'll have to give your prey slack as you keep it hooked and move your stylus to the sides of the screen to pull the fish to the center. There's a lot of play in the fishing mechanic, and that's good because you'll fish about as often as you would expect to fight monsters in a traditional RPG. The big difference between fishing and fighting is that you don't have to coax monsters into attacking you. In River King, much of your time is spent waiting for the fish to bite. It's realistic but not fun, and it's frustrating after you watch several fish swim past your hook, and you can increase your chances of attracting fish by using the cash you earn from catches you buy to better equipment. Money earning progress is slow at first because you have to spend the bulk of your earnings on bait, but it picks up once you can afford a rod that allows you to use lures. Animal buddies help you pass obstacles, and along with a host of characters you meet along the road, add comic relief to endless fishing trips. If it's human companionship you seek, you can set up multiplayer fishing tournaments. What? I hope nobody did that. I just hope nobody did that. You can set up multiplayer fishing tournaments via local wireless session or Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, George S. Also, this month, try your hand at 30 crazy mini games in Majesco's Furu Furu Park for Wii. Hit the ice in Kids Sports Ice Hockey for the first hockey game for Wii. Ubisoft is bringing the popular TV drama to the Wii with CSI Hard Evidence. If you ever wanted to own a horse, you'll have your chance in My Horse and Me on Wii and DS. And animal lovers can try Ubisoft's Puppy Palace on DS. For something completely different, there's Miami Nights Singles in the City. Excuse me? A socializing game for DS. Brain Challenge for DS will test your mental acumen. Are you tired of getting smarter from all the game training games? The DS adaptation of Jackass is sure to drop your IQ a few points. Okay, I'm switching to this because when I remember scrolling through, it's just a lot of ads at this point. So the Mop Shop. Sweet Dreams. Just talking about Knights Archive. So this is just kind of going through all of the scores, reflect individual reviewers' opinions. Okay, yep. So this is kind of breaking down like all the scores that they've had, I guess. I'm not going to do that. I can see why they'd have it, but I don't have any interest in going through that. So that's what these two screens were. And then fandom, community, art for art's sake. Sure, anyone can just play with an Etch-a-Sketch, but one man takes the popular toy in Nintendo fandom to the next level. Like tricks. Etch-a-Sketches are for kids, all right? Right? Excuse me. Apparently not, as the appropriately named Etch-a-Sketches and any Elliot Sharon proves with each amazing picture on his site, etchasketches.blogspot.com. Little is known about the etch-a-sketching savant, so we chatted with him about video games, his medium, and what he has in store for the future. Nintendo Power. How did you get so good at etch-a-sketching, the Etch-a-Sketches? Since talking to Nintendo Power, I've got to give a shout out to the Game Boy. A Game Boy Advance is about the same width as a travel Etch-a-Sketch. The coordination it takes to simultaneously use both left and right hands and your eyes and your brain all comes from the time I put into Tetris, Zelda, Kirby, and Advance Wars on my Game Boy and GBA. I also started getting good at Etch-a-Sketch in the backseat of long car rides. The Etch-a-Sketch was what I would pick up once my batteries died. When did you decide to make the Etch-a-Sketch your artistic choice, medium of choice? The Etch-a-Sketches. A lot of reasons. It's cheap. You can find them at every thrift store, a garage store, a store and garage store in America. They're self-contained. I've got a big problem with losing caps to pens and markers. They're clean, no ink to spill or eraser to dust away. And the process of drawing on an Etch-a-Sketch is fun. There's something magical about manipulating the stylus with just two stationary knobs, and when you get in the zone, you're really just using both hands, both sides of your brain simultaneously. It feels good. Your neurons are firing in ways they don't normally. I think Etch-a-Sketching might be making me smarter, but I haven't been able to prove it yet. Also, the whole drawing, painting, and sculpting fields are pretty well populated and have long histories. There's only a handful of Etch-a-Sketchers out there, and there's still a lot of unexplored artistic territory. Nintendo Power. How long did it take you to draw the Mario piece? About an hour. That's the average for a standard side as Etch-a-Sketch. I usually break it up into 20 to 30-minute sessions. Do you save all your art? Do you sell any of it? The Etch-a-Sketches. Every piece gets shaken up and erased. I sold 2 preserved sketches this year, and I'm in no hurry to do any more. It's kind of a hassle, and I don't feel good when I'm stabbing an Etch-a-Sketch and I'm draining its sand, and I don't mind the fact that the pieces disappear after a day. Thanks to digital photography, I can look back and remember how cool they were. But even though I don't like to sell them, I would gladly trade a custom piece or two for a Wii or DS if somebody's got any extras sitting around. Nintendo Power. Do you have any plans to draw any other Nintendo characters in the future? Well, I've obviously got to do Link and Samus at some point. Bowser is on the list, Donkey Kong perhaps, maybe even Miyamoto himself. But if I had to guess, I would say Fred Savage rocking a Power Glove from Wizard will probably be the next Nintendo related piece you'll see. Yeah, these are pretty cool. Good for him. Events. Because somebody's just fucking was driving around in a fucking. That's awesome. Okay. Donkey Kong Smash. Donkey Kong has been around since 1981, and Nintendo decided to celebrate the Big Ape's success by introducing him to the world of Monster Jam. In a recent show in Minneapolis, fans were able to see the debut of the new DK truck, which bursts forth from a giant barrel to lay the smackdown on the competition. Driver Frank Kermel is a big fan of the series, and although we're not sure we'd agree with him when he said that Monster Jam was the next natural progression for DK, we have to admit that he cuts a striking figure in that DK suit. That Donkey Kong truck will be part of Monster Jam for the foreseeable future. So if you're a fan of monster trucks or just really love monkeys and ties, be sure to check it out. Fuck, I wish I could have shot. I kind of want to see if there are YouTube videos of this. So we will find out. I will find out at least. Mod Job, Nintotem 64. People might be all about the Wii and DS right now, but we still love our old systems. I especially have a fondness for the good old Nintendo 64. Apparently, so does one of the Los Angeles-based artist Ryan Crippen's clients, who asked for this custom printed console. Crippen says on his site, most of the time I incorporate my skull logo into design or go for the Haida NW Indian totem look. As you can see, his style is a perfect fit for the N64. You can see more of Crippen's art at his website. And then they literally just post the website. I wonder if that's still active. Well, that's kind of neat, though. Write your own caption. Screen test. Our readers really let their hair down to come up with the captions for Volume 223 Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Screenshot. I wonder if that's cross. Accent Core Screenshot. See their submissions below. This month we're challenging you budding writers out there with screenshot unlike any other. Pull out your pacifier and email your best caption to screentest@futureus.com. Play School's line of Downer Dan giant thermometers was an instant failure. Volume 223 shot. Okay. This fight brought to you by the letter C. Hakun Wong. Rapunzel, let down your oh my god, Chuck N. Oh, look, a penny. Michael A. Herr Duken. J Santi I1. Dixie Kong lawsuit is still pending. Alvin A3 Levin. Slayer knew he was done for when he realized it was the girl from the L'Oreal commercial, Chad S. Woof. Next month, the winter frost is over and melting away to reveal only the freshest awards, reviews, and previews, and a lot more. And the winner is readers voted, editors fought. When the dust settled, only the best games were left standing. Find out which titles took home honors in the 2007 Nintendo Power Awards. Early buzz. 2008 is kicking off with a bang, and we've got the definitive word on the heavy hitters such as No More Heroes, Dragon Quest Swords, and Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney in the next month's reviews. An epic unfolds. Next month's cover story is an RPG so fantastic, so engrossing, so epic, and so hush-hush, we have yet to erase your memories. If we'd have to erase your memories if we told you what it is. In fact, maybe we already did. Role-playing fans, get ready for a big one. And I guess I could have zoomed in a little bit there. Okay, the ultimate summer experience. Just kind of more ads. Mario Sonic at the Olympic Games, an ad. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, an ad, and then another ad, and that is it. So I'm going to go back to here, switch back to this, and say thank you for watching. This wound up being probably one of the longer episodes just because I did not plan very well, but I got through all three. So like I said, next time I'm going to try to even it out better and just kind of split it up 3, 3, and 3. But it didn't happen this time. I want to thank you. I really do need to start thinking about the DS in a new light. if I can get retro achievements going, I might have to think about it a lot. So anyway, but with that, thank you for watching. And this is going up Friday. So then at that point, the next thing I will be doing is I will be streaming that Monday. So I guess you will see me that Monday. So thank you for watching.